I almost didn't go. That's the part that keeps me up at night even now. I almost stayed home. Almost convinced myself that my daughter was a grown woman, that she didn't need her old man showing up unannounced on Thanksgiving, that the silence between us for the past 3 weeks was just normal family friction and not something darker. I almost stayed home, and if I had, I don't know what would have happened to her. My name doesn't matter much for this story. What matters is that I'm 63 years old. I spent 31 years working maintenance and safety inspections for a chemical plant outside Dayton, Ohio, and I know my daughter the way I know the back of my own hand. I know when something's wrong with her. I've known since she was 4 years old and used to go quiet instead of cry when she was scared. Quiet was always the warning sign with her, not tears. Quiet. She'd been quiet for 3 weeks. Her name is my sunshine, the kid who used to drag me out of bed at 5 in the morning on Saturdays to go fishing at the reservoir 2 miles from our house. She's 31 now, married 3 years ago to a man I'll call my son-in-law, because calling him by his name still makes my jaw tighten in a way I don't want to explain right now. They lived about 2 hours south of me, in a house my daughter had saved up for and put the down payment on herself. She'd been proud of that. She used to send me pictures of the backyard, the kitchen she was fixing up, the little herb garden she planted along the fence. The pictures stopped coming in August. I noticed but didn't push. She and I talked on the phone, short calls, and she always sounded fine. A little flat, maybe, a little careful with her words, but fine. I told myself it was the marriage settling into its rhythms. I told myself I was being an overprotective father. My wife, God rest her soul, used to tell me I worried too much, so I tried not to worry. Then came the first week of November, and my daughter stopped picking up the phone. Not every call, maybe 1 out of 3. And when she did answer, she sounded like she was reading from a script. "Everything's good, Dad. Work's been busy. We're doing great." Short sentences, no stories, no laughter. My daughter laughs at everything, always has. She laughs at bad jokes, at herself, at nothing in particular. It's one of the best things about her. She wasn't laughing anymore. I called on November 15th, a Tuesday night, and my son-in-law picked up instead of her. He said she was in the shower, said she'd call me back. She didn't call me back. I called again 2 days later and got voicemail. I texted, she replied with one line. "All good, just been exhausted. Talk soon, talk soon." That was the last thing she sent me before Thanksgiving. I'd already planned to drive down. We'd talked about it in September, before the calls started getting shorter. She was going to make my wife's sweet potato casserole recipe, the one we'd been making together every year since my daughter was 12. That casserole was a whole thing in our family. You don't just not make it. 4 days before Thanksgiving, I texted to confirm what time I should arrive. No response. 3 days before. Nothing. 2 days before, I called. Voicemail. The night before Thanksgiving, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in front of me, and I made a decision. I was going down there, whether she wanted me to or not. Whether I was overreacting or not. Something in my gut had been pulling at me for weeks, and I'd been pushing it back down because I didn't want to be that father. The one who can't let go. The one who doesn't trust his kid to handle her own life. But there's a difference between trusting your kid and ignoring what your body is trying to tell you. My body had been telling me something was wrong for a long time. I left at 6 in the morning on Thanksgiving Day. It was cold. The kind of gray Ohio November morning where the sky looks like it's made out of cement, and I drove with the radio off because I needed to think. I'd brought a small cooler with the ingredients for the casserole, just in case. My daughter had the recipe memorized, but I'd written it on an index card and tucked it in my jacket pocket. Old habit. I want to ask you something before I go further. Have you ever had that feeling on a drive, where the closer you get to your destination, the heavier the air gets? Like the road itself is trying to slow you down? That's what that drive felt like. I stopped once for gas and a cup of coffee, and I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes just staring at my phone. No messages. I typed out a text to her. "On my way. Be there around 9. Love you." And put the phone face down on the passenger seat and kept driving. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from right now? And have you ever followed a gut feeling that turned out to be right? I pulled off the highway and into her neighborhood a little after 9. The houses on her street are older, well-kept, the kind of neighborhood where people put out seasonal decorations and the lawns are edged on both sides. Her house was the third one from the corner, a white two-story with green shutters, and a red maple in the front yard that she'd planted herself the first spring she lived there. I knew something was wrong before I even parked. There were 3 vehicles in the driveway, and one on the street that I didn't recognize. My daughter drove a gray Subaru. My son-in-law drove a black pickup. The 2 cars in the driveway in addition to those were a silver SUV with a cracked taillight and a beat-up tan sedan with an out-of-state plate I couldn't read from where I'd stopped. The truck on the street had a dent across the rear panel. The lights were on inside. I could hear something, music maybe, or the television turned up loud from all the way at the curb. I sat in my truck for a moment, then I got out. I knocked on the front door. No one came. I knocked again, harder. After about 30 seconds, the door opened, and a woman I had never seen before looked at me. She was maybe 40, heavy eye makeup, a plastic cup in her hand. She was wearing a sweater with a turkey on it. She looked at me the way you look at someone selling something door to door. "Can I help you?" she said. "I'm here to see my daughter," I said. "This is her house." The woman's expression didn't change. She looked over her shoulder into the house, then back at me. "She's not available right now." "Excuse me?" "She's not feeling well." She asked not to be disturbed. I could hear people inside, multiple people, talking and laughing. I could smell food. Someone had the game on in another room. "I'm her father," I said. "I drove 2 hours. I'd like to see her. I'll let her know you stopped by." And she started to close the door. I put my hand on the door frame, not aggressively, just firmly. "I'm not leaving without seeing my daughter." The woman looked at my hand on the frame, then at my face. Something shifted in her expression. She called over her shoulder, and my son-in-law appeared from the hallway behind her. He was holding a beer. He looked at me with an expression I can only describe as calculated, not surprised, not guilty, just measuring me. "Hey," he said, "we weren't expecting you." "I texted," I said. She didn't mention it. He leaned against the door frame with one arm, casual, like we were having a neighborly conversation. "She's upstairs resting. She's not feeling great. You probably should have called ahead." "I did call, multiple times." He shrugged. "Look, it's not a great time. Holiday and all. Why don't you head back, and we'll plan something for Christmas, okay?" Behind him, through the narrow opening of the door, I could see a dining room table set for what looked like 8 or 9 people. There were dishes laid out, a turkey, drinks, a full Thanksgiving spread. My daughter's Thanksgiving, in my daughter's house, and my daughter was supposedly too sick to come to the door. "Where is she?" I said. "I told you. Upstairs." "Then I'd like to go upstairs and see her." She asked not to be disturbed. "She's my daughter." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, so only I could hear, "Don't make a scene here. Go home. I'll have her call you." He closed the door. I stood on the porch for a moment. My heart was hammering. I was 63 years old. I was standing on my daughter's porch on Thanksgiving morning, and her husband had just shut the door in my face, while a house full of people I'd never met ate a turkey dinner inside. I walked back to my truck. I did not drive away. I sat there for a while, watching the house, thinking. The upstairs lights were on in what I knew was the guest bedroom. My daughter's bedroom window, the one at the corner of the house, was dark. I got out my phone and called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. "I'm outside. I'm not leaving. Please let me know you're okay." 5 minutes passed. 10. Then my phone buzzed. A text from her number. Just 4 words. "I'm fine. Please leave." I stared at those 4 words for a long time. I read them again, and what I thought was, my daughter has never, not once in 31 years, texted me like that. She doesn't write in clipped sentences. She uses too many words, always has, like she's afraid of leaving something out. She adds little asides, little jokes, extra punctuation. She signs texts to me with dashes and nicknames. "I'm fine. Please leave." That was not my daughter talking. I put my phone in my pocket and I got out of the truck again. I walked around the side of the house, where the fence gate leads to the backyard. I'd been to this house enough times to know the layout. The gate latch was simple, just a pin you lift from the outside, and I lifted it. The backyard was empty. There was a covered porch at the back, her herb garden along the fence, brown and frostbitten now, and off to the left, the small workshop my son-in-law had built last summer. He'd called it his hobby shed. Woodworking, he'd said. The workshop door was padlocked. I don't know why I walked toward it. Something, just something. I knocked on the workshop door, said her name. I heard something, movement, then her voice, muffled and rough, like she'd been crying for a long time. Dad, I want to be very clear about what happened in the next 30 seconds, because I've replayed it more times than I can count. I heard my daughter's voice, broken and terrified, coming from behind a padlocked door in her own backyard, and the whole world went very still and very clear. I'm here, I said. I'm right here. Are you hurt? She was crying hard now, trying to keep it quiet. Don't let them hear you, please. Don't let them hear. Are you hurt? I said again. My wrist, she said. I can't. There's a chain, Dad. There's a chain on the door inside too. I won't describe what those words did to me. I don't have the right words for it. What I will say is that I stopped thinking like a worried father and started thinking like the man who spent 3 decades doing safety assessments, systematically, methodically, focused entirely on what needed to happen next. Stay calm, I said. I'm going to get you out. Are you alone in there? Yes. Is anyone watching the back of the house? I don't know. There's a window. I can't see from here. I looked at the padlock. It was a combination lock, not a keyed one. My son-in-law's birthday was in March. I tried it. Nothing. I tried the last 4 digits of their address. Nothing. I tried my daughter's birthday, the one her husband would have known. It opened. I pulled the lock off and opened the door. She was sitting on the floor in the corner, next to a metal shelving unit. Her left wrist was secured to a hook bolted into the wall with what looked like a cable lock, the kind used for bicycles. She had a sleeping bag around her shoulders. There was a half-empty water bottle on the floor next to her, and a paper plate with crackers on it that looked like it had been there since the night before. She was in sweatpants and a thin long-sleeve shirt, and she was shaking. And when she saw my face, she made a sound I will never forget as long as I live. I held her for a moment. Just a moment. Then I pulled out my phone. Now, I need to explain something here, because it's the question I get every time I tell this story. Why didn't I call 911 right then? The answer is this. The county sheriff in that area and my son-in-law were not strangers. I had met the sheriff at their house once, at a barbecue my son-in-law had thrown the previous summer. They had played on the same recreational softball league for 2 years. My son-in-law had told me casually and more than once that the sheriff was a good friend. I didn't know then what that friendship entailed. I had some idea now. I was not going to call the local sheriff's department and trust them to walk into my son-in-law's house and do the right thing. Not with my daughter sitting on a workshop floor with a cable lock on her wrist. What I called was my brother. He was a retired state highway patrol officer, living 40 minutes north of me, which put him about 2.5 hours away. I called him and I said 4 words, I need you now. And he said, where? And I told him and he said, don't move, I'm coming. He knew from my voice. He didn't ask questions. While I waited, I worked on the cable lock. It was looped through a bolt, and the bolt was screwed into the wood of the shelving unit, not anchored into the wall itself. I found a flathead screwdriver on a pegboard near the door, and I worked that bolt for what felt like forever, but was probably 8 minutes. My hands were shaking. My daughter kept looking at the small window near the ceiling, watching for movement. How long? I asked her, working the screwdriver. Since Wednesday night, she said. The night before yesterday. Who else is here besides your husband? His brother. His brother's wife. 2 other people I don't know. She stopped. Dad, he took my phone Wednesday morning. The texts you got weren't from me. I know, I said. I know they weren't. The bolt gave. The cable loop fell free. I helped her to her feet and she was unsteady, and I held her arm while she got her balance. We have to go out the back, she said. The fence on the other side has a gap by the cedar tree. I used to go through it to get to the neighbor's house when I locked myself out. I didn't know about that gap. She did. This was still her backyard. Whatever they'd done to her in it, we went through the gap in the fence, crouching low into the neighbor's yard. The neighbor's house was quiet. It was Thanksgiving morning and most people were inside. We went around the front of the neighbor's house and out to the street, coming out half a block down from my daughter's house, and we walked quickly and quietly to my truck without anyone coming after us. I drove 2 blocks, then pulled over. Are you hurt anywhere besides your wrist? She showed me her wrist. There was bruising where the cable had been, and a raw patch where she'd pulled against it. Nothing broken, as far as either of us could tell. Tell me what happened, I said. She told me. I'm not going to go through all of it here, because some of it is still part of what came after, legally, and some of it is my daughter's to share, or not share as she chooses. What I will tell you is the shape of it. My son-in-law had been in financial trouble, serious trouble, the kind you don't get into by accident, for over a year. He had borrowed money from people he shouldn't have borrowed from. When he couldn't pay, he'd offered them the use of my daughter's house as collateral of a sort, a place to stay, to operate out of, to store things. The people who showed up were not his brother's friends there for a holiday. My son-in-law had told my daughter she needed to stay quiet and out of the way. When she threatened to call me, he'd taken her phone. When she tried to leave, he'd locked her in the workshop. He thought I wouldn't come. He thought the text he'd sent from her phone would keep me away. He didn't know me very well. My brother arrived an hour and 40 minutes after my call. I don't know how fast he drove, and I didn't ask. He was in his personal vehicle, but he had contacts, and before he got to where we were parked, he had already been on the phone with the Ohio State Highway Patrol and with an agent he knew from the FBI's Columbus field office. This was not small-town sheriff territory anymore. This had elements to it that went beyond a domestic situation, and my brother had recognized that the moment I'd told him about the people in the house and the reason my son-in-law was afraid of them. State patrol units arrived at my daughter's house that afternoon. The FBI arrived within the day. The people inside did not have an easy evening. My son-in-law was arrested before sunset on Thanksgiving Day. His charges included unlawful imprisonment, which carries real weight in Ohio, as well as several things that came out of the broader investigation that I'll let the public record speak to. The sheriff did not come out of the subsequent investigation looking good. He quietly resigned the following February. My daughter's wrist healed completely. She stayed with me for 2 months after that. We ate cereal for dinner some nights and watched old movies and didn't talk about what had happened unless she wanted to. Slowly, she started laughing again. Not right away. Not even close to right away. But it came back. She's working with a good attorney on the divorce. She's back in her own house now, because it was always her house. She made the down payment, and she has every right to be there. She replanted her herb garden in the spring. She sent me a picture of it. We did Thanksgiving again the following year, just the two of us, at my house. She made the sweet potato casserole. We ate it at the kitchen table where I'd sat the night before I drove down, with the cold cup of coffee in front of me, trying to convince myself not to go. I'm glad I went. If you're watching this and something doesn't feel right with someone you love, a call that comes out wrong, a text that doesn't sound like them, a silence that's gone on too long, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I did. I stopped convincing myself I was overreacting, and I went.